Even as a pilot, a lot of the times you don't feel wealthy. But what if your day to day habits are quietly bringing about serious financial success and strength? Well, there was a recent article in Kiplinger magazine that outlined 5 surprising signs that you might be richer than you think, and none of them involve yachts or your own private jet. So, what we're going to do is analyze those habits on today's show and see if these are signals of real lasting wealth and what to do if you're not on the right track. Today, we're going to talk about being the millionaire next door. 5 signs that you're richer than you think, coming up on today's episode. Welcome to another edition of the Pilot's Advisor. I'm Walter Storholt alongside Ryan Fleming, financial advisor, pilot himself. And of course, this is the show all about financial planning and retirement planning, specifically for pilots. And Ryan, it's great to talk with you again this week. How's life treating you?
Pretty good, pretty good. I mean, you know what? You keep trying to make this into a financial advisor podcast, and I tell you, I want to talk about college football.
I know. You'll notice, Ryan, that I had you talk about football before we got on the show to hopefully get it out of your system, right?
Now I'm seeing what you're talking about. Okay, well, then I'll try to focus. We'll jump right in.
You see my strategy. You see my strategy. Well, I think it's a good show today. We're going to talk about these signs that you might be richer than you think. And before we dive into the actual 5 signs, I just want to get an idea from you. What is the sentiment of most pilots that come through your door? Are they usually feeling like, hey, I'm among, I'm wealthy, I'm well off, I'm set up, I'm in great shape, or are they a little bit more hesitant to be that confident?
Well, I think that's why today's show is going to be so much fun to talk about because, prospects or clients, you get both, like both sides of the spectrum.
Okay.
But what I find most interesting is pilots, we know exactly what they make, and it doesn't matter what airline you fly for. Most of those contracts are, relatively competitive or near each other. So to see the dichotomy of people that are making the exact same amount of money and then to see the differences in lifestyle and saving is what I find truly interesting.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Okay, so you're seeing it from all angles. I think that's a great launching point to get into these 5 signs that you might be, wealthier than you think. So here's the first one, Ryan, is that you've prepared an emergency fund. Certainly not the sexiest thing in the world to focus on, but there's a reason that that's our foundation and the first thing that they talk about in this article.
Yeah, and actually looking at that as an absolute minimum, I think the pilots are really good at getting their 401k contributions in and maxing out their 401k simply because most of the companies, after they lost their pensions, put in 18 or 19%. I mean, it's crazy the amount of money that the airline employers put in. But then you look on the outside, and I actually ask people this all the time. I go, well, where's your liquid security? In many cases, there's a lot of pilots that have absolutely nothing, not a dime to their name outside of the 401k. And it makes me very scared going, wow, where's it all going? So yeah, you see those people that have the emergency fund. And in most cases, if they have the emergency fund, they actually have a taxable investment account as well, because we're still going down that path after you've saved 3 to 6 months. I think where you really take yourself to the next level is where you actually have an emergency fund and a taxable investment account. At some point, you can actually take that emergency fund and invest it and let it work for you as well. Because once you get to a point where, you have a market adjustment, even if the market's down 10 or 20%, you still have your emergency fund there. But in the meantime, when you look at the market being up 3 out of every 4 years, it only makes sense to let that money grow and work for you.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, Ryan. I think it's really wise to look at our savings and realize that it sounds counterintuitive based on what we talk about all the time here on the show, but it's not all about the retirement savings. There's other places to put those dollars. And so if you find yourself pummeling everything into retirement, but then having nothing to work with in the short term, that's just as big as a problem as the opposite, or at least it's similar to the opposite problem.
No, I totally agree. And it's amazing to me that a lot of people don't understand that you can actually invest your money and it not be in a retirement account. It's almost, and I just don't get it, but a lot of people just think that they have to only put it in a savings account, or now after inflation was so huge in 2022, everybody's talking about a high yield savings account, which I don't know, this high yield savings account, I would totally get rid of those altogether. because people don't realize they're only really paying the cost of capital at that time. And of course, now that inflation's come down a little bit, they're not really paying that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you can actually let your money work for you just like it does in a 401k and build it over time. And I call it the liquid security. And one of the questions I ask my clients or prospects that I think really gets them to think about it when I talk about liquid security is like, hey, life just happened, and we could come up with a myriad of different things, but you need $50,000 right now. Where is it going to come from? And there's a lot of deer in the headlights look because people aren't prepared. And as a pilot, I think this is even more relevant because of health issues. I mean, your profession is tied to your direct health. And I think, if you haven't thought about the fact that you may lose your medical because XYZ happened, you need to live your life and plan for that to possibly happen to protect you and your family.
Few extra wrinkles that pilots have to consider. Now, our next point that was in this article rings really true with what you just talked about, Ryan, in the intro, and that was that you see people kind of with all different lifestyles coming through the door. So sign number 2 that you might be richer or wealthier than you think is that you live below your means. Your lifestyle's not increasing every single time your paycheck does as well. And that's counterintuitive because you would think the person that's out spending and, getting the new truck or the new car and having a blast out there spending their money would be the one that actually, sort of feels richer. But it's not necessarily the case when you then look at kind of the numbers behind the scenes.
Yeah. And I think that in general, people that have more money actually have more stress. But pilots, I mean, we talk about pilots that buy the captain house when they're still an FO, or the guy that has the crazy cars and toys and airplanes and boats. And unfortunately, the person that projects all that wealth, or the one that's on the road spending money, throwing it around, they don't have anything. When you start looking under the hood, per se, there's nothing there. And it's really sad where, and we've talked about the millionaire next door, but I see it all the time where there's a pilot that doesn't have a nice car and doesn't have nice things. And then you start seeing what they've saved up and they're way ahead of the game. I had of course I can't say any names, but I think about a lot of different people. And there was this guy that I used to fly with all the time. And the company bought us new uniforms every single year. So there was zero reason to not have pants that were brand new and a shirt that was white. Well, this individual, his shirt was just always discolored and like old. He had a 1980 Casio watch. We'd go on a trip because I ended up flying with him a lot. And these shoes had to be 25 years old. And then he had like 3 shirts. Well, this guy was the millionaire next door. He didn't buy anything, but then had millions put away, millions. And you're just like, wow, how differently people can live life. And you get to see the drastic difference when you start looking at, pilots in general, because I think that some of them are living very large, way outside their means. And then you have other ones like that.
You're making me feel good. I've got one pair of dress shoes, and they're from my wedding day, which I've been married a little while, but I like them. They're the most comfortable shoes I've ever worn. They still look decent, I think. So why do I need a second pair?
Well,
so I'm down with that.
The way you grew up has a drastic effect on how you feel about money and its scarcity, or how you're going to live your life. I do okay, make decent money, but I still can't. I have a hard time buying shorts that are over $20.
Right. Same mentality. Inflation or not.
Horrible. and my wife is, she can't stand it. But the other thing is, I would really like to have a nice watch. I'd love to have a nice watch, and I just can't do it. I cannot spend that much money on a watch, and even my wife talks to me, well, it's an investment. It's actually, it's a family heirloom. You could pass it on to our son one day. And I still can't pull the trigger on it. Just can't do it. I think a part of me, though, too, is not only growing up with very little and living paycheck to paycheck, but I also know now, being in the industry for so long, the power of saving and the power of compounding interest. So when you think about it as an opportunity cost, like, hey, do I want to give up that $5,000 worth of growth for the next 20 years just so I can have that watch?
Right.
And I always think about, well, if I just wait a few more years, then then it won't matter. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, I got sidetracked.
No, you're right on point though, because these are the conversations. They sound small and simple, but if you make those decisions over and over and over again, you're leaving a lot more on the table than you probably realize. So that's why it's so important to live within your means, kind of delay that gratification a little bit, even as your career is advancing. If you do those things, you're just going to set yourself up for a much stronger future. So I think you're right to go down that rabbit hole.
Well, and we have these conversations. You and I have these conversations all the time, and I think that we're pretty well aligned with saving and living below our means. And I try to talk to my clients a lot about, you just upgraded to captain, but act like you didn't, or
even if you can just delay it for a year before you start acting like
just
it, you'll
anything,
benefit. Yeah.
Or even I have a lot of younger pilots now that are upgrading, and I'm just like, if you can just live below your means for the next 6 to 7 years while you're single and not married and don't have kids, you'll be light years ahead. Because once you start getting married and kids, I mean, a lot of the budgeting, you still have to budget, but they're just expensive. Kids are expensive.
First kid on the way. I'm finding out. Yep.
Oh yeah.
we just put the deposit down for daycare. Oh boy. Oh, I love it. So yeah, we got to be careful. Got to make sure we're living within our means. All right, we beat that one pretty good. Let's go to the next here from the list. 5 signs that you're a pilot who's wealthier than you think. You invest strategically, and that's pretty broad, Ryan. So when I was reading the article, I was like, okay, well, we got to define that a little bit better. So what does that mean to you and to pilots specifically?
Well, I think about this as being one of the most powerful tools or habits, because life's all about habits.
Mm-hmm.
I think pilots are very good at every single month saying, hey, I'm going to put 10% away into my 401k. But why not put 10% away every single month in a taxable investment account on the outside? You've heard me talk about it. I call this forced discipline. Every month on the 3rd or the 17th or both, $500 goes away. It's this simple principle of paying yourself first if you're, a Dave Ramsey guy or what have you. But that discipline, that forced discipline, and then every paycheck that you get a pay raise, bump it up. So I don't care if you started out at $50 a month or $5,000, but the power of that over time is massive. I mean, we all like to talk about, dollar cost averaging and then being systematic with our saving, but it truly is powerful. And more than one time, and I, of course, that I'm thinking about clients right now, like they're going through the Rolodex, but where I met them and they were, maybe middle of their career or late in their career, and they didn't have any of this financial security outside of their retirement account. And I got them to start systematically saving. And I'll never forget, one of the guys goes, it was like 2 years later, and he's like, where the hell did that $100,000 come from? And I'm like, well, we've been putting away $1,000 a month, or whatever, and he was amazed that it had happened, because if you just get it out of your checking account, you can't spend it. And then you actually make life decisions based off of what that checking account looks like. So my goal every single month is, when I get paid, I try to get it out of my checking account as quickly as possible.
Attention aviators, when you've spent years in the cockpit managing the complexities of flight, isn't it time you navigated your retirement with the same precision? Introducing retirepilots.com. Right at your touchdown zone on our homepage, there's a beacon flashing, "Get my free toolkit." Click that and you'll be cleared for a direct route to Ryan's retirement toolkit, tailor-made for pilots like you. Inside, you'll find 2 of his important works, The Pilot's Advisor and Pilots Retire Early. Between these 2 books, you can decipher the 9 critical decisions when retiring before 65 and discover the 7 lessons to help pilots land safely in retirement. But that's not all. This toolkit is packed with altitude-high value, including extras to get your retirement plans off the runway and light the afterburners on your 401k. Vector on over to retirepilots.com to grab your toolkit, and let's embark on this journey together. Yeah, it's almost like I feel like I'm aligned with you. It's almost like, we didn't get paid. Yeah. By the time whatever's left hits the account and settles a day later, it's kind of like, wait, what happened?
Well, But the power of that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then whatever's left over in the account, because you already paid yourself first, go spend it all. Go do whatever you want. Go out to eat. But you've already paid yourself first. You've already done the things that you need to do. And then, of course, you're going to have your bills and what have you. But other than that, have fun.
Yeah, great points. All right, we got two more areas where you might be richer than you think, and that is if you have multiple income streams. And you could apply this both for while you're working and also once you retire. This principle applies to kind of both phases of life, right?
Well, it does, and I think any income stream, I think about yes, you could have real estate that was producing income. Maybe you have a pension from being in the military. Any one of those things where it's less money that you have to pull from your retirement accounts, you're going to get yourself in a situation where those accounts are going to keep growing over time. And we are talking about the top 1% of the population here. I mean, great jobs, people that are maxing out their 401ks almost every single year. Many of my clients have, rental properties, or at least one, from just moving or what have you. And yes, if you have any of those things, you're definitely way ahead of the game. And I find it very interesting that when I'm having conversations, it takes a long, long time to get to $1 million. I mean, it really does. But then 2 million comes really fast. And I don't think people truly see the power of compounding interest until they're have built a bigger snowball and they're later in their years. Whereas if I think they would have saw that or understood it earlier on, they would have been much more aggressive with saving. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense, Ryan. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so getting to actually watch that, or the difference between a true saver versus a spender, I'll have the conversation. I'm like, all right, so you're living a lifestyle right now about $300,000 a year. How much do you think you have to have saved to continue that lifestyle in retirement? And when you start doing the math and the safe withdrawal rate, I mean, I'll talk about $1 million is only going to spit out about 40 or 50 grand a year. So you start doing that math, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, yeah. And I go, yeah, your lifestyle is going to drastically change unless you make a change today.
Yeah. Great points. All right. Last but not least, the fifth point from this Kiplinger article about signs you're richer than you think. You focus on the long term. So we actually started off a little bit talking kind of about the short term, right? And gussying that up, making sure you've got that emergency fund and some more liquid assets available to you. But it always does circle back to that long term focus.
Whenever I hear long term focus, I feel like it's the most powerful thing out there with investing, because you got to be long term and you got to be absolutely unemotional. It's very easy for me to be unemotional, but investors are the exact opposite. I mean, they've done whole studies on how you're too emotionally attached to your money to make good financial decisions. Any given time, somebody's panicking about something. We had one of the fastest downturns earlier this year, fastest 20% sell off we've had in the last 75 years. People were panicked. And here we are in, August, September, and the market's up, things are good, and nobody even remembers that happened. But during that window, there was a lot of short-term emotional decisions that are made and I watch it because I know if somebody's going to hurt themselves. I'm like, oh my God, don't do this. But I see it all the time where people will make a short-term emotional decision versus staying the course and staying in that portfolio. And it's a good conversation to have. I had a buddy who's a financial advisor that used to talk about this, where we could show you a track record of portfolio performance, but the only people that got that really good track record were the ones that stayed on board through the ups and downs of the market and were disciplined. And I talk about it with flying, where if you're flying an airplane and you hit turbulence, you don't just jump out of the airplane, do you? And of course, no, absolutely not.
No.
Well, then why are you trying to do that in your portfolio? So pilots are emotional, and I see it all the time.
They need the seatbelt and the pilot yelling at them to stay seated and sit down, right? And please, for the safety of everybody, don't get up.
It's sad, but the studies show everything of what investors do to hurt themselves.
Yeah. It's amazing to see that. Well, again, these are just some illustrations that you don't have to feel rich to actually be on the right track. So if you're checking off a lot of these boxes, a lot of these habits and principles that we've talked about over the last couple of minutes, you're probably well on your way to building wealth that's going to last the rest of your life. And so before you look at somebody else, another pilot out there, and compare yourself to them and get concerned over maybe you're not living right, you're not doing it the right way, maybe get an analysis of your actual financial situation. Talk to Ryan and his team at the Pilot's Advisor. Make sure that you're set up properly for where you are right now in your career and also well prepared for when you hit that retirement date. He can help run a portfolio analysis after you order the retirement toolkit, and walk you through exactly what the planning process looks like. And again, give you a clear picture of where you are now, where you're headed into the future, and changes that might need to be made. And the time to make those changes is now, not a year before retirement or when you're already retired, which unfortunately sometimes happens. There's just less levers that can be pulled. There's less course correction that can take place. So do that early in the trip so that you create a smooth ride the rest of the time. All you have to do is go to retirepilots.com. Again, that's retirepilots.com. We've got that link down in the description of today's show. Get your toolkit. You'll also qualify for that free portfolio analysis. Ryan, thanks for the help today. We enjoyed going deep with you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
It's always great being on the podcast. We enjoy talking with you as well, Walter. And the retirement toolkit's free. The analysis is free. Why not check out how you're doing compared to other people? It's probably one of the most important things that you will do in your life. And we don't want to keep kicking that can down the street.
Absolutely. We'll see everybody next time right back here on the Pilot's Advisor.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.